Okay, folks, I now want to talk about Michigan State's head coach, Tom Izzo, the head coach for Michigan State basketball. I've always said for the past couple of years, and people have agreed with me, and some people have disagreed with me personally. I don't know why people disagree with this take all the time, but to me, Tom Izzo is one of the most overrated coaches in sports history. Not just college basketball history, in sports history, people. Now, don't get me wrong. Overrated does not mean bad. It does not mean that you are a bad head coach, because I'd be foolish to categorize Tom Izzo as a bad head coach. The guy has never had a losing season during his 26-year career coaching at Michigan State. He's developed 11 first-round picks at Michigan State, which is pretty good. And he's been to the Final Four 8 times as head coach at Michigan State. My biggest problem with Tom Izzo and why I believe he's overrated is because Tom Izzo has only won one national title in 26 years as a head coach. And at a program like Michigan State, that's underachieving. That's unacceptable. Because it's not like Tom Izzo is not getting great players. No, Tom Izzo's a really good recruiter. Michigan State is, to some people, considered an elite college basketball program. So Tom Izzo is getting 4 and 5 star players to come play for his school. Michigan State is a well-known brand. And more times than not, when it comes to tournament time, they disappoint. And here's a fun fact about Tom Izzo. 10 times Michigan State has been ranked in the top 5 in the AP poll in the preseason. Now, AP polls and preseason rankings are everything, but that just goes to show you that Michigan State, for the most part throughout Tom Izzo's career, they've had high expectations for a lot of those years, okay? And Tom Izzo's only won one national title. And I keep hearing people put him in the category with Roy Williams and Coach K and even Jay Wright, who's won 2 national titles at Villanova. I mean, I beg the question, who's getting more talent to come to their school? Jay Wright at Villanova or Tom Izzo at Michigan State? I'm going to lean toward Tom Izzo at Michigan State just because Michigan State is a much more well-known brand. Okay, and I'm sorry, but when you're coaching at a place like Michigan State, you're expected to win national titles. And Tom Izzo hasn't won a national title in over 20 years, people. And people keep saying, oh, Tom Izzo, he's just an elite head coach. He's an elite head coach. No, he's not. He's not. He's not an elite head coach. He's just not. Okay? And even when Tom Izzo's team usually gets to the Final Four, more times than not, they get blown out. And a lot of times, Tom Izzo's teams sort of fall apart down the stretch. And I attribute that to Tom Izzo being a very emotional guy that yells a lot. He's filled with a lot of energy, and sometimes he gets emotionally drained, and that wears off on his players. Sometimes I see Tom Izzo near the bench, screaming and yelling, being emotional, and I'm just like, whoa, Tom Izzo, tone it down a little bit, I think at times Tom Izzo gets a little bit too emotional, and usually your basketball team or whatever team you're coaching takes on the personality of your coach. And Tom Izzo, when things are riding high, he's really, really emotional and really happy. And sometimes he's a little bit calm, but when things start to go wrong, he's all emotional, he gets out of hand, and sometimes he unravels just like his team unravels when it matters most of the time. So look, I'm sorry, people. Once again this year, Tom Izzo, his team didn't even make the NCAA tournament this year. Okay, they lost to UCLA in the first of 4. Okay, this year in 2021. UCLA is an average team at best, people. Michigan State had high expectations. A lot of people considered them a top 10 team all year. Okay, well, at the start of the year, I should say. Not all year, because we saw throughout the year Michigan State get exposed, but I mean, I wasn't surprised that Tom Izzo and Michigan State unraveled and they lost to UCLA just because this has been happening for years and years. Michigan State has these high expectations. People prop Tom Izzo up and they say he's an elite head coach. He's a tier 1 head coach. No, he's not. Tom Izzo's a really good head coach, well above average, but he's not elite. He's only been elite for maybe a couple of seasons. A couple of years ago, you maybe could have made the argument that Tom Izzo is an elite head coach. But as time has went on, I'm sorry, but if you go nearly two decades without winning a national title at a school like Michigan State, where you're getting 4 and 5-star players, that's not good enough, in my opinion. And really, it should be in a lot of other people's opinions. I don't know why people push back on this topic, but the harsh reality is, whether people want to admit it or not, Tom Izzo is an overrated coach, and he's not just one of the most overrated coaches in all college basketball right now. He's one of the most overrated coaches in all sports history. Okay? No doubt about it in my mind. He's one of the most overrated coaches in sports history. Tom Izzo, for you right there. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juiciest Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juiciest Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.